This is More Than Reality podcast, where we dive into all things faith, family, and marriage and share that there is so much more than the reality that you see on the surface. Welcome to More Than Reality with Adam and Danielle Busby.
What's up?
Hey.
We are back with episode 12 of More Than Reality podcast.
It's 13.
13. You're right.
Wait, what was that?
We are back with episode
what was that?
13 of More Than Reality podcast.
What did you say before that?
Because I was up late last night because I was so busy.
What did you say
this
before
week.
that?
What?
There was like two words you said.
I said, what's up?
Nope. You started with your.
You're back? You're what?
Right.
Oh. You're right. I did say that.
You're right that I'm right. Thank you. Thank you for that.
So we're back at episode 12.
13.
Dang it. You know why? Is because I've been out of town half of last week. My entire schedule got pushed back. I normally will edit the podcast like towards the end of the previous week, and it's pretty much just ready to like do all the titles and everything at the beginning of the week. And literally last night, I was up till like 3 o'clock in the morning, which I'm dragging today. I was up till like 3 a.m. uploading and getting everything squared away, so it would be ready to go live today. So I've got episode 12 on my brain right now. So
I'm sorry. I don't have.
my brain's mush today, guys. My brain's mush.
Well, guess what? I guess I'll talk, which is normal. Still won't work.
I thought it would be interesting.
Adam thinks that we need
I thought it would be interesting.
icebreaker question, which I said we don't. By the way, I'm like extra cozy today. These socks are amazing.
I'm just in a hoodie.
Because it's actually got like so cold last night, and my body hurts when it's cold, like hurts.
Well, your body hurts whenever we go through like a drastic temperature change for sure.
Yeah, but I got up this morning.
That's Texas for you.
Yeah, and
yes,
I
like
had to
2 days ago. 2 days ago, it was like 70 degrees. Like I was like girls were shorts and tank tops 2 days ago, and then in a matter of
like Riley comes downstairs with leggings on and a short sleeve shirt, and I'm like, girl, you need a sweatshirt. Oh, I'll grab a jacket. No, you need long sleeves on and a sweatshirt and then a jacket while you're going in and out. I mean, it's like it was in the 30s.
Yeah.
So they're like, whatever. Yesterday I was in shorts. Like, I know.
But for me, last week was pretty cool. It was a surreal experience. So
I was like, didn't we talk about that? But it was just
really.
on TikTok Live that we did.
So it was such a surreal experience. So I grew up, obviously we're from the South, grew up in Louisiana. We live here in Texas, but grew up in the South. I grew up on like,
wait, time out. This is why we don't need an icebreaker question, because there's always something to talk about.
Be patient. So I grew up on Southern cooking. And so a staple in Southern cooking and like Southern cook is Paula Deen. And like my mom's got all the cookbooks, and like I remember, I mean, that's just kind of like the food that we eat is just Southern comfort meals. And that's what Paula Deen does through Good Ranchers. So I do a lot with Good Ranchers. And one of the things that I do with Good Ranchers is like I help shoot and produce a live cooking show. We call it Hosted at Home, and we go stream it live on the Good Ranchers YouTube channel. We came across Paula Deen a few months back at some patriotic event in Nashville or something like that. We told her, hey, well, we just got to talking, obviously Good Rancher stuff, got to talking, and
I'll send you some meat.
Yeah, we're like, hey, we'll send you some stuff and let you try it and see what you think about it. And so we sent her a bunch of stuff, and she was just raving about it. Like right now, she's like on a big pork kick. Like she even reached out to us afterwards, and she's like, just like raving about it. We're like, hey, we do this Hosted at Home deal. It would be awesome, just because she's had TV shows and, on the Food Network and all this stuff for like, my entire childhood. And like, this would be like an easy thing to do with you. We'll fly out to you. And she's like, yeah, come into my house. I was like, what? We're going to do this at your house? Like, I thought it was just, I mean,
it's like people,
she's got multiple restaurants and all kind of stuff. I just thought we were just going to do it like, or she has like a set or something somewhere where she kind of does her cooking content. Nope. We did it at Paula Dean's house.
Well, that's like,
it was super cool.
Ray, what's her name?
Rachel Ray.
Lives in, not Rachel Ray.
She used to do cooking shows.
Yeah, I know. 30-minute meals, remember? 30-minute meals. I used to love those. No, the lady in Oklahoma.
Oh, that's Pioneer Woman.
Pioneer Woman. That's at her house on their ranch. Anyway, so
maybe she'll be next on my list. People at Target. She'd be cool too.
Yeah.
No, it was just super cool because, like, you know, I was there. I was doing the shooting and stuff for it. So, you know, we get there to her house and the crew, like all of our Good Rancher people.
How many were there?
We usually run light. I mean, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think we had 6, 7 people with our whole Good Rancher crew. So they all walk into the house and, you know, they introduce themselves and stuff like that. And then I'm getting my camera bag and all my gear and stuff out. And I walk into her front door and it was like the craziest thing. She like looks up. They're all in the kitchen, dining room area. She looks across the living room and our eyes meet and she comes like running over and she gives me the biggest hug. I mean, it felt like 15, 20 seconds where she's just like hugging me. She's like, has her.
Wow, I can't even do that with you.
She has her head on my shoulder and I'm looking around. I'm like, what's going on? Like, what's going on? She grabs me by the shoulders and she's looking at me in the eye and she says, I thought I'd never see you. And I was like, what? So apparently I look identical to one of her past camera operators on her TV show that she probably hasn't seen in maybe a couple decades.
It's hilarious.
And so she like, at first she thought that's who I was. And then whenever she realized who I was, she's like, oh, she's like, I know you too. And so she grabs me by the hand and brings me into the living room. We sit down on her couch and we sat there for, it seemed like 20 minutes and just like making small talk. One of her sons, Bobby, has triplets. And so, you know, she's talking about all that and grandkids and asking about us and the kids. And it was just super cool because she just like,
love that.
One-on-one, undivided attention, brought me into the living room. We're like having this conversation. She's like, man, I want to get Bobby to come up here and y'all can share war stories.
But that's what I love about like that South culture. Like, you know, just like.
She's the most down to earth, super hospitable.
She seems fun. Like Adam FaceTimed me and called like before they started the live show or whatever. And she was talking to the girls and I was just like, I want to come over there. She seems like she's a party.
Yeah. She was super fun. I mean, she just has so many like little just like anecdotes or like little innuendos that she kind of just throws in and it throws you off guard. But she was super entertaining and it was cool to hang out with her for the day. And then we flew there and went to North Carolina, went to Penske Racing headquarters, world headquarters, and got to kind of tour the whole place and us Good Rancher people. It was Ben, the owner and CEO, good friends of ours, and Jermaine. We flew to North Carolina, just us three, and we judged a chili cook-off, and it was like kind of like all their pit crew.
Oh my gosh, it just clicked. That's why you came home wanting to make chili.
Yeah.
Because you're on a chili kick.
Now I'm on a chili kick. And the temperature changed.
But we don't ever make chili.
I know. We used to make chili all the time, my mom and dad.
I know, and y'all ate it with rice. It's weird.
I know, that's what we do. Nobody else I know eats rice with chili.
No, I'll never forget the first time I've always
had rice with chili.
Your parents' house, I'm like,
you put a bed of rice on, put the chili on top, mix it up.
It's not rice and beans, it's chili.
My ideal chili is rice, and then I put like a American cheese slice.
Gross.
And then I put chili, and then another American cheese slice, and then Fritos, and then mix it all up. And
it's like, what?
Awesome.
Why the rice? Because that's what the Fritos are for.
I don't know.
And why sliced cheese?
It's what we've always done. It's all I know.
Sliced cheese versus shredded cheese. I've never, like, those two things were a first at your family's house. Was rice with chili and sliced cheese.
I realized how weird it really was whenever
You went to
I came-
anywhere else?
I came to Texas and
No,
everybody's
I
like,
was in Louisiana too. We never had chili like that.
yeah, no one else does it.
I'm gonna look it up. Chili. Do people drink
Drink it?
Do people eat chili with rice?
I mean, it's got to be other people that done it. We judged this chili cook-off. It was like all their pit crews and stuff would have this like yearly chili cook-off. And so we made it flight delays and all kind of stuff. It was like snowing out there. And
Snowing.
so we did that. And then we got to tour the whole facility. Fox was actually there shooting some promos because Fox is now, IndyCar is on Fox now. And so they've been shooting promos and commercials and all that kind of stuff. And so I can't really say what this specific commercial is for, but Fox was there shooting some stuff, shooting some content. I got to meet Joey Logano, which he was this past year's championship winner for NASCAR. And we got to hang out with him for a little bit and talk to him. And he was super cool. And I mean, he just came over to us and was just like making small talk and just hanging out. That was neat. Yeah. I mean, we get to do some fun stuff every now and then with Good Rancher Crew.
So I was home with a couple sick kids and laundry.
Which has lingered
But
on.
I did have
This
one,
was like the topic of conversation last week.
or 2 weeks ago, because it lingered and it bounced kids. But I did have one day where I purposely I'm not doing anything but staying inside the house because you were gone and kids were at school. And it's very rare where I'm like at the house by myself.
No one's here.
And
Nothing going on.
It's kind of beautiful. It's weird, but
Stay in your PJs all day.
yeah, when you're not looking at me, are you going to go have sex or not? It's 12.
I mean, what else is there to do? Kids aren't here.
Work.
You can make all the noise you want.
There's always something to do.
I mean,
Challenges of working together.
being a married couple, working from home, no kids in the house.
Us women
like
think about
ideal
what time
time.
today.
Ideal time for love making.
That's exactly what goes on through my head all day.
Prime time.
Man, before the kids get home, they're about to go to school. That's all I'm thinking about.
I got a neck with mama.
What? You're weird. I haven't heard that. Are you going to pull out these cards? Even though we just kind of randomly went on a lot of conversations. We're not even going to get to the point of the podcast
It looks like
today.
I'm about to read Danielle's fortune. I've got these cards in my hand. And so I saw probably about a month or so
You know
ago.
that we're supposed to talk about the podcast.
We are. But about a month or so ago, some friends of ours, Jeremy and Audrey Roloff, they were talking about, they made these cards and they're called Connect cards, where there's like a whole fat deck of cards.
Is there 52 cards in there?
And it's just, no, it looks like way more than 52 actually. But I just grabbed some cards off the top of the deck.
And you're shuffling them. Like, did you already pre-read these?
No.
Probably, knowing you.
So I figured we could go through a couple of these cards.
A couple, dude. Just pick one if you want to do one. Connect cards. What would it most likely be for if you got a call that I was arrested? If you got a call that I was arrested, what would it be for? Basically, I'm guessing that's what that is.
If you were arrested.
What would it most likely be for if you got a call that I was arrested?
If I was arrested or you were arrested.
Well, you're answering it for me. Like you're answering it about me. What would I get arrested for?
Probably
Taking a nap in the car.
public loitering
She
and
pulled over.
sleeping in a parking lot.
Hey, I'm not going to
somewhere.
lie. Sometimes I pull up to that car when I go to car rider line, or even like now if I leave to
It's
get
this
Blake,
lady.
I do.
It's this lady just sleeping in a random parking lot.
If I get there like 15 minutes early because I'm like, it's not worth going home or whatever, I'm like, I'll just go to the parking lot or whatever. I crack that seat back. I take a nap. I'm serious. You got to nap when you can. It's the life I live. So
I figured it'd be like getting in some kind of argument and altercation because some random person ask you for a photo or something at a very inopportune time.
so then I got in a fight with somebody.
We've had some stories over the years for sure of just
Not of me getting
people-
a fight with somebody.
no, not getting in a fight.
Except
but
that one lady
there
at
was-
Disney World.
exactly.
No,
There was one.
Disneyland. About
There was one. It was
I
at
went all
Disneyland.
mama on her.
Like, thank goodness we had like a VIP escort with
It
us.
was. Oh, I'll never forget that day. And I'm like, the audacity. This lady's a grandma too.
Like it just shows you like people have no concept of boundaries. This lady, so we divided up.
The Quints were like 3 years old.
We were getting like lunch or something. We had divided up.
They were potty trained.
I was taking some girls.
Me and Deb were taking them to the bathroom.
But I had some girls with me too. And you only had like 2 or 3 with you. You were either in a store or in a restaurant.
No, I literally walking through that archway thing, going to the bathroom, and I had one of them on my back and I was holding the hand to the other.
Granted, most of the time, if we're taking our kids to like somewhere fun and it's like a family thing, we try to do for the most part, we try to focus on like spending time with the kids and we're not try to walk around. Especially at a place like Disney World or Disneyland or something.
We're there for the kids.
Because if somebody sees us taking photos with other people, then it's just like, woof.
And like, oh, what are they taking photos of there? Well, then maybe we should take a photo with them.
People go there also to just people sight or whatever, because a lot of celebrities and stuff do go to places like that pretty often. And so,
but I used to get more freaked out, and even still to this day,
especially when the kids were little.
I don't like having them all by myself if I'm like,
when I'm not around too.
Yeah, like say I got them from school and I needed to run to the store. You just never know. Like, so I'm always like, 2 of y'all get inside the cart. And everybody in the other 3 have to like hop on it. And it's a good 300 pounds that I'm pushing. But especially going through the parking lot and stuff, because there's always that fear of like, I don't live on fear, but just in that scenario, I'm one mom with 5 children.
Because if somebody snatches the kids, like what can you do? You can't just leave all the others and just start chasing them or
it's like one of the biggest, scariest things.
Even though you would.
Yeah. But taking that cart and running with that cart.
Trying to push 200 pounds of kids.
But I always, so it's that. So when
you bring more kids to them.
Yeah, especially when you're
load in their van.
No, especially whenever they were smaller, little toddlers. It was like, only somebody could hold my thumb and somebody could hold my pinky. It was basically what it was. And then I would have one of them hold the other hand, or Blake would hold a hand. But this day we were taking a couple of them to the bathroom and I had one of them on my back. I want to say it was either Hazel or Parker. And then the other one was walking. I was holding her hand. And I think Deb had somebody's hand. And we're walking this lady. She had to have been like in her 70s for sure. She's a total grandma. She was with other people. We were like rushing to hurry up and walk fast, get to the bathroom. We're not even like sightseeing or nothing. We're just like, mission is go to the potty. She walks up and she's like, oh my God, it's the Busby's. Mama, can I take a photo? And I was like, and as we didn't even stop.
Which also like calling attention to us and getting other people to turn and look.
I was like, we're headed to we're in a rush right now. And I didn't even stop or whatever. And I was like, sorry, not today. And just thinking these girls are potty trained, but you just never know how long they've really had to go, if they really even have to go, or if they just want to sightsee the bathroom, just like every public place, or are they about to pee their pants, So it's like, you don't know. So we're just rushing to try to get to the bathroom. And she turns around and she's like, I want a picture. And I was like, me and Dad like kind of looked at her and was like, just keep walking, just keep walking.
First of all, that's not how you ask.
Yeah. And then she literally started coming after us. And she was like, whoever was on my back, she wanted to touch them. She wanted to touch them. And
it's a no.
I don't care if you're a known family or a public figure or not. Someone comes and wants to touch your kid, you're about to like get jump slap, Like I was like, I turned around like so fast. I mean, if I wasn't holding a child on my back, I probably would have like definitely pushed her.
Yeah.
I'm fired up because I still remember that day.
Mama Bear comes out.
Yeah. I cannot believe it. I can't believe it.
This is when Danielle would have gotten arrested.
For being a protective mama bear at times when needed.
All right.
That's kind of funny.
Card off the top. In what ways do you think you are similar and different from your parents?
Well, good question, because I don't know my dad, so I'd say I don't know anything.
Great card for
We're
Danielle.
all different. My mom, I don't know. I feel like for me, I don't find that I am like my mom often or a lot, but I do see my mom and my sisters. And so I'm like, oh my God, that was so mom. Or, oh my God, that is so mom. Blah, blah, blah. But for
Every
me, to
now and
answer it
then.
about me, I don't feel like I'm not necessarily like a hospitable person. Like, and she's a very much of a she's very extrovert. She loves people and she loves to like serve people. And those are just not, but I don't know. You know what? She's good with kids. That would be my trait from her. Like her. She's good with kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm like. How am I different? Everything else.
I mean, it's always, you always have.
I'm more like defiant. I'm more, this needs to make sense. Everybody says how Riley Page is, like that's how I am too. And I realize that the more and more as Riley gets older, I'm like, wow, you were just like me. This is why mom had a hard time with me.
Isn't it funny? Like just randomly, just doing random stuff, random moments. You're like, oh gosh. I know so often I'm like, oh, you sounded just like your mom right there. And I know you say it to me like, oh, that's Philip Busby right there.
That was so your dad.
So your dad.
Yeah, that does happen.
He'll say stuff.
That does happen a lot. And then you have a lot of faces though. I don't feel like you look like your mom. I don't feel like you look like your dad either. But
I mean, me and my little sister Kayla, I don't know where we came from.
Yes, huh? Kayla looks like your dad. She looks more Busby.
Yeah,
Of course, there's a mix of both of them. And you're
I'm
just
the oddball.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's faces you make or moments that you have that are your mom. Like those moments where you just are like, where you get quiet and you're just like staring, or you make faces and they looks just like her. I don't know if I've ever told you that.
Because my mom and my dad couldn't be any more opposite. Like my dad's like super like
Same about us.
extroverted, always.
Hey, check out my cute cup. I got this last night at the favorite party.
But my dad's like super extroverted, like cannot hardly get him to shut up in like a room because he just like will run. He will just run the room, which is great. I mean, that's why everybody loves him, because he's so easy to talk to and stuff. And then my mom's just super quiet, super reserved, kind of like
But
stands
you're like
by his
so
side.
both of them.
But then my mom's like super like motherly and hospitable and like does everything behind the scenes. So
Yeah, you are a lot like both of your parents. Both your parents.
Mm-hmm. All right, today is episode 13. And last episode we got you right up into.
Wait, hold on.
It was go time.
Good call on the couples connect questions, roll offs. Audrey and Jeremy. That was fun.
Yeah, you can go to like if you. I bought these just because they're our friends and you like to support your friends, and they just look like something interesting. I'm like, we can pull out these cards every now and then. If you go to beating50%.com, you can get these there. Couples Connect cards. Unpaid advertisement. That's free media for you. But what is that? Earned media. So
episode 13.
13, 12, we got you right up until it was time to have the babies. It was go time.
Do you want to make a guess on how many episodes
Danielle
we'll have to get through this story of the first season?
Because over lunch just now we were talking about, we could kind of play this episode one of two ways, and we can probably do.
We'll talk about both of them.
We'll do both because there was like a side story going on right at this same time as well. Was the origin story of how the TV show came about.
Yeah, where OutDaughtered kind of like
Happened.
came from and happened. Yeah,
Birthed.
Yeah. So where it was birthed as well as what I was birthing.
Yeah, there's multiple things birthed this episode. So last week I was in the middle of this crazy, stressful project at work, reprogramming all this equipment, and it had to be done on this like super quick timeline during a lunch break. And then I get the phone call from Danielle. She said, I think they're going to induce today because I'm having contractions and Dr. Ryder doesn't want to stop it because it's a Friday. All these people that are on this list, this huge list that they had prepared of all these people that had volunteered, like, hey, we want to be on the list. We want to be a part of the team because it's got to be a huge team. We want to be a part of this group that assist in the birth. And all those people were at the hospital.
Yeah. And we didn't want, obviously what's ironic is in the very beginning of our story with meeting the doctor, Dr. Ryder, who was our maternal fetal specialist. So like my doctor through this whole pregnancy and whatnot, we were started with, we're not taking your advice. we're going to do this. And here we are on the day of like where we're going to have babies. I'm looking at him thinking, okay, I trust you. Like, if this is what we want to do today, this is what we're going to do. So it's just kind of like
yeah, he definitely earned our trust for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we had a lot of time together.
28 weeks of earning our trust.
But what's interesting is that I hadn't talked to you. I don't know if I ended up talking to you that morning, because I remember that morning came in, and you have to think too, like Adam is getting up, getting Blake ready, getting Blake to go to like preschool, as then he's going to work for this big project that's going on. So he's busy too. I get up and they like switch nurses around like 7 a.m. or something. So, and they bother you all night, like every 3 hours, they got to check this or look at that or whatever. I don't think that I heard from you like that morning, because I usually would like, I mean, maybe
I had
it was
a lot going on.
Maybe it was a text.
I was stressed.
Maybe it was a text or something like good morning or whatever, but we didn't talk.
Yeah.
We hadn't talked yet. I started that morning with, it's the changeover of the schedule and the nurses, and then they got to recheck all your vitals, and so that they can start their charting and all the things. And by the time that goes on, then Dr. Ryder comes in, and it's like, how are you feeling? And all the things. And then we look at all the papers, and, oh, I didn't know that's what this feeling was all night. Because obviously I had contractions before with Blake, which were very different. I just kept saying, I've kind of felt a little weird the last 2 days. Literally since we celebrated Blake's birthday at the hospital, I think was kind of the slow down, don't do too much, sit down. But man, I think back to that, and I'm just like, all I wanted was for Blake to be able to have that birthday without her sisters being born on that day.
Yeah.
But over the 2 days, because I had the Quints at 28 weeks, which was that day was Blake's birthday, fourth birthday. In 2 days when they delivered, those 2 days, I wasn't feeling anything like more different pain, because I was just in pain, It was just, I felt more pressure and just differences down there that I wasn't thinking contractions at all. So when I finally talked to him that afternoon, hey, bae. Hey, my boo, baby daddy.
You want to have a bunch of babies today? Mama's about to have a litter.
But what is beautiful about this part of the story is I just felt at peace. I felt at peace with it. Adam could probably been like, holy cow, what's going on? I'm over here. I got to get over there. We have Blake. How are we going to do this? There wasn't any prep plan on like, when the day comes, this is what we're going to do. And I guess we probably should have already had stuff at the hospital. They would come visit and all these things. We didn't really have like
we had like family members and stuff that like we had prepared. Hey, whenever it's go time, and we got to go to the hospital. Obviously, like, y'all are on the list. Y'all got to go get Blake, deal with that. And then y'all can bring her up here and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah. But I was just, I was
starting to get nervous.
I was excited, and like, it was just like a surreal moment, and it just didn't feel real. I take it back to like the day we got married, when none of it ever felt like it was my wedding. Like I was the bride, until the second it was that I walked through the doors, and then people started looking at me as I'm walking down the aisle. I'm like, oh, wait, I'm the bride. Everything else it just was happening, and it was fun or whatever. And so that's how I kind of felt about this. Like, I'm having these babies, and here we go. Like, this is it. So I'm just doing it. I'm just living. This is what I do now. I just feed babies in my belly and try to not be bored at the hospital. And so at this time I just felt complete peace about like, yeah, today's the day. And I liked the fact that if my body is going into labor, not stopping it, because there was so many risks, high risk, that we were like surpassing, and still in the midst of possibly slowing down the contractions or seeing if we could wait it out longer, also was a chance of something bad happening, or not having staff there to help in a situation, or meaning enough staff that we need, or, babies getting into stress and having to be in an emergency aspect. And I like, above all that, it was the last thing I wanted, was like an emergency aspect. So it wasn't, this is happening right now, Adam, get your tail here. Hey, we've planned this out. We're having babies today. We're going to do this, but it's going to be this afternoon at 4:00 or whatever is the plan. So my doctor is going to go talk to all the team. He's going to prep everybody. They'll have their last rundowns. And I think they've been planning for this too, obviously. And so it made it nice to, in my head, who's someone who likes to control and have structure, there was a structure around it. And I'm not telling you that a lot of people are able to have that when they're going into labor, and I just felt very good about the day. I just felt good about the day. And I didn't really get nervous until I was laying flat on my back and they were about to cut my stomach open and I couldn't breathe because I couldn't lay flat back. I couldn't lay flat on my back, or I literally had so much weight on me. I couldn't breathe.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I woke up that day, no clue, no inclination that we were going to have babies that day. Yeah. It was a complete shock whenever I got that phone call.
I can only imagine like your moment, like kind of like whenever you found out we were having Quints and you just like phase out and drop coffee and you're like just a blob. Oh, now what? Wait, this is happening. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like how you get like
super
still
quiet.
and super quiet, and
like my brain just starts racing and just thinking about all the things that.
But on the outside, it's like, this guy ain't paying attention. He's not listening because he's just like, that's what your appearance is. But inside, it's like,
yeah, I'm an internal processor.
Yeah.
Honestly, like the last probably couple months, month and a half or so, leading up to this day, naturally from having the blog, and we had talked about the blog the past couple weeks, so we've had this blog that's out there.
It's a buzzworld.com
that we were sharing. We'd post photos and stats and what's going on that week on the blog.
Updates of all the doctor
and
visits.
then we'd share it to Facebook. And then we're just kind of putting that stuff out there just for friends and family. Hey, just this, you can keep up with this. And had no clue that it just went viral like it did. And then over the course of a few months, hundreds of millions of views on this blog, which is crazy because nowadays you just think of social media and stuff. But, the actual website, the blog had that many views and so many people were following and keeping up and everything, which led to, then we started getting reached out to like daytime TV shows like, Good Morning America and Today Show. And then also, production companies all over the world. And even like studios and stuff all over the world, and just inquiring, hey, what'd you think about doing a TV show and all this stuff? And so, over the course of these past month and a half or so, I've just been fielding, these requests and people, kind of, I don't know, the entertainment industry is, a weird animal. If you've never been in that world, and which we haven't up to that point. And so it's like, man, like you don't know what to believe. You don't know who to trust. You don't, all you know is like, it could be, people can take advantage of you really quickly. And so you're just kind of like sifting through these emails,
And I'm at the hospital with just like.
And I was just doing this. I mean, knowing that Danielle's off at the hospital. She's, said you didn't really want to bother her with that. So I was just kind of filled in all these phone calls and emails and meetings and stuff, and just hearing these people out. And, some people just, throwing like the craziest things out and like promising you all this stuff. And you're just like, man, I don't know about this. And you just have these like weird feelings from people. But ended up having this one conversation with who we ultimately ended up like agreeing to meet with together. And just because I've had this completely different feeling with this one guy, which we now call Uncle Brad.
Uncle Brad.
Yeah. And it was just unlike any of the interactions that we've had with anyone else, or I had it with anyone else. And just, I had this more of a peace about him. He seemed like more of a family guy, which I thought would, he'd protect us, protect our family, more than all these other people that were just.
It's their job.
Feeding us a load of BS, So we ended up scheduling like a FaceTime call or a Skype call or something like that.
And this was on the day, which is funny because this is
the birthday.
This was on the day after the birthday party. I had to go back in like my bed and.
No, we had talked to him prior to that.
Oh, but he wanted to, that was the day he met everybody because they came up to the hospital.
Yeah, but we had, no, that was all video, remember? Because we had
the video, like
because he recorded a video conference of everybody coming up and like he was just talking to them.
Yeah, I thought all that was
But
the same
you
day.
and
You're
I,
right. We had a FaceTime call with him.
This was before. I'm recalling.
I was in the hospital.
Because at one point we shot a sizzle reel with Brad.
That was after the babies. The babies were born.
This was while they were in the NICU?
NICU.
Okay, yeah. Because I remember, because I was starting to think back of like the sizzle
Does
reel.
anybody know what a sizzle reel is? Because I didn't know what that was until...
For those of you that don't know what a sizzle reel is, it's like a mini episode, a mini trailer of what, if you're going to pitch a show to a network, like this is what the show is and this is how they look on camera, just so you can kind of see the charisma, the dynamics between the people and stuff like that. So you shoot like this little mini episode to tell the story of what this show
or
would
who
be
this
about.
family is and whatnot. And then to me, like, it was fun, and we absolutely love the sizzle reel. Like, It's still one of my favorite things we've ever done.
I need to ask, I have it on my computer, and I need to ask Brad, hey, can I share this one day?
I know, it's the best.
We've never really showed it, and I think some of the music on it isn't like copyright appropriate.
Yeah, because we did Disney songs, remember?
Yeah,
in the car.
So I don't know. I'd have to like navigate that, because putting it on social media will probably get copyright strikes and stuff.
So we had like a FaceTime call. I was in the hospital. Adam had come up one day after work or something. Maybe it was the weekend. And that was the first time like I met Brad on that call. And it was just like, tell me about, we just kind of chatted about us and family dynamics, and I have sisters and this is what's happening and blah, blah, blah. They're all girls. And then once we had Blake's birthday party at the hospital when she turned 4.
And all the family came to the hospital.
All the family came up there. And so that is...
A lot of that content is in the sizzle reel, because it's
in the sizzle reel, but it's also in...
It was a Skype interview with most of the family where he recorded them on like via Skype. And a lot of those like interviews is all Skype calls.
Right. But that was on the early beginning of the show, the intro of the show.
Yeah.
So that was all, a lot of things that people don't know is that some of that stuff is pre-footage before it was even, can I even say that? OutDaughtered.
Yeah.
It wasn't OutDaughtered when we were filming. All I wanted to do was capture that day, because guess what? We didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, for us,
we had zero idea what was going to happen.
For us, it was kind of all out of, in a sense, selfishness. Me and Danielle were both like, nobody's going to watch this. Like,
no, I'm talking the day
we didn't really care so much about that. It was more so like, man, just think of, like, this is like a free documentary that somebody's going to come and shoot that we don't have to worry about. Like, somebody's just going to follow. And so at the very least, we're like, we don't think anybody's going to watch this show. Hey, it could be.
Well, there wasn't even a show at that point. It was like, you're just capturing things to see if you can.
Offering to come film it. So we're like, okay, that's cool. Like, can we have the footage?
Yeah, exactly.
And so through that time, it was, navigating just like all the crazy entertainment industry kind of stuff, and ultimately landed with Uncle Brad, Brad Bogart. And so, ultimately he ended up coming to Houston and stuff. He had shot a show here in Houston previously, following Life Flight. And I think the actual show was called Life Flight. And so he was familiar with Houston. He knew a lot of camera operators and, production people here in Houston that had worked on that show. So he had a ton of contacts already at any given moment, even if he was in LA and couldn't get here in time.
He had somebody
that he could call that could meet us at the hospital and
which
at
is
least
what happened.
Catch footage. Yeah. Cause he was stuck in LA.
And you're like, oh, we're going to have babies.
Yeah.
And he's like, how does he get back to Houston to be able to film it? So, because that was important. Like, above all, that day of capturing to me was like, I wanted to see that, because honestly, still to this day, like, it's very spacey to me, especially after cesarean.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about one of the most dramatic pieces of footage you could possibly have of documenting the birth of the first all-girl quintuplets in America is the birth. And at that point, we hadn't signed with like a TV network yet.
Yeah, there was nothing.
I think we hadn't even had a talk yet with any kind of network.
There was no show. There was
we were
nothing.
just kind of in the middle of like filming
Just
this sizzle.
let's capture this stuff.
But we knew like this footage, like we gotta have this footage because I mean, this is a huge part. Like you can't just like have quintuplets and then just the show just appear with babies, or not ideally. I mean, you could work around it, but so, I mean, a big part of it was like capturing the birth, and I'm selfishly like we wanted that captured as well, just because, man, like what a time in our life to, you know, capture something like that. So, you know, we knew that whenever it was go time, we were going to film it. And ultimately later it ended up getting used in the show, you know, so through that whole time, you know, we were having conversations, filming stuff a little bit here and there, having Skype calls and stuff, and just kind of wading through like what this is going to look like and everything. And Danielle and I, you know, had this very skeptical view of it to begin with, just because, you know, you're not in that world. You don't know.
It's like we faced going through infertility with not any advice or knowing what that was going to be like. Didn't think we would experience that, and we felt alone in a sense. And then you go through like, now you're having this ultra high risk pregnancy. Not really sure. I know many people around that are experiencing with quintuplet pregnancy. So then you're now going to be having the babies in the NICU. Don't know anybody, don't know anything about the NICU really. I knew one friend who had a kid in the NICU, but didn't know the highs and lows and the depthness of like how this would impact your life. And then these talks of capturing and maybe making a show around this family was just like, don't know anybody who does that either. So it was just all like, we're just literally living day by day.
Uncharted territory for sure.
Uncharted by all means, and just going day by day. And at this point, there is someone there capturing it, filming it. And Brad does come in later that night and then kind of takes over with capturing and things. And it's crazy because I kind of remember the earlier days where he was just like, he was in it, man. Sleeping on the floor in the old room, Blake's old room, and nowhere to fit.
Yeah. So I leave work.
Snoring video. If you listen to this, Brad, you know that you'll love that comment.
Yeah. I left work and finally got to a point where I could leave. And Danielle did give me a little bit of a grace because she's like, you know, they're not planning on doing this till like 4 or something like that. So I knew I had at least a little bit of time because this project was going through a lunch break. And so, you know, trying to get as much done as possible so I could get out of there, get it to a point where I could just hand it off and get out. And so then ran home, grabbed a bag and took off to the hospital because I knew once I got there, I'd probably be there a while, like days. And so, you know, finally get to the hospital and, you know, walk into the room and, you know, it's just loaded with nurses and Danielle's just laying there and she's got all these monitors because they literally had to have a monitor for each baby. So she's got like these
5 of them.
They had, you know, all these ultrasounds that we've done over the months, you know, they mapped out where all the babies were, and the babies once at a point, they never move. And so you kind of have an idea, and literally the nurses have a map of Danielle's stomach of like, okay, baby A's here,
do you have
baby.
a picture of that?
I mean, I don't know. And so like they have this reference at least roundabout where the babies are. And so then that's where they place the monitors. And so Danielle's just like laying back on the bed and with all these monitors strapped to her, and, you know, all the nurses are in there frantic, going all over the place and checking this, checking that, prepping, calling back and making sure the OR is getting ready and all these people are getting in place. I mean, it was a sight to see for sure, because the hospital had taken us like the week prior into the OR, and just to kind of give us a run through of what was going to happen that day, just so we could at least somewhat be prepared.
Like when it's go day, you'll come through these doors and they kind of like showed us, and then this is where you'll have the babies. And then right when they come out, they'll go into the NICU and like they showed us all that. Yeah,
we were in the furthest operating room, the closest to the double doors leading straight into the level 3 NICU. And I mean, I get emotional just talking about it, just because it was so like scary, just like walking through that and seeing all that and just kind of fast forwarding in your mind, like what that day is going to be like. And so that was really whenever it felt real, whenever they like brought us down that hallway. We got like when I was going Danielle was in a wheelchair and like wheeled her into the operating room and actually seeing the bed. And then once you get in there, they kind of tell you like all these people are going to be there. And then, there's going to be this long hallway leading into the NICU, and all these nurses, I mean, literally from door to door, are going to be just lined with nurses, and they're just waiting. And all these nurses are assigned to teams. Each baby had their own neonatologist assigned to them. And that neonatologist had his team of people that, would stay with that baby from there on out. Yeah, that was how they prepared us and like showed us. And then they kind of wheeled us into the NICU just to see like, okay, they're going to come through these doors and they're going to go into this first stage where they're going to get the kids breathing. And
because I don't know.
Because you had to stay after you had the babies, you had to stay in there, obviously, because they had to sew you back up and everything. But once all the babies made it into the NICU, then
did they let you go?
Then they released me, and I got to follow them in. Yeah, it was crazy. So the day of the birth, all this stuff started to take place, and you call family members, they're all getting activated and stuff, and parents are driving in, and family members are making their way up to the hospital, and everybody's sending messages or whatever, like, we're here, we're waiting, just let us know. And we had one videographer with us that she was gave permission, she had to scrub in and stuff, and she was in the operating room so she could capture everything. And then they wheeled Danielle in, and it was just the craziest thing to see. Danielle just like wheeling down this long hallway in this bed, and just the amount of people, like
Talking about afterwards?
No, whenever, like as it was starting to happen, bringing you into the operating room. I mean, it was almost like this, like a parade procession. It was just,
everyone was looking at me. I don't know, and I didn't like it.
It was crazy. I mean, there was like literally 40 something people or more in this hallway, and they're all just lying down the hallway, and they're just waiting. They're all scrubbed in and just ready and waiting. Some of them are like saying stuff and, giving you encouragement as you're coming through. They bring Danielle into the operating room, and they put me on a stool right by her head. All these doctors. So the doctors were in the room, in the OR, and there was 2 or 3 like actual, like Dr. Ryder, and I think he had 2 other doctors assisting him with the actual like C-section and everything, and extracting babies. Yeah, and it all started to take place. Danielle's just laying there, and I can kind of see over. They had like a sheet up, so Danielle couldn't actually see what was going on, but I could kind of see over.
I wish I could have, because I would have just been like, oh, let me see.
Yeah.
I remember laying there and like, I can't breathe. I'm nauseous. That's why my ultrasounds took so long, because I could not go on my back.
I mean, any woman that's pregnant, I mean, how just uncomfortable that is just to lay flat. Like once you're just fully like ready to have a baby, like you can't just lay flat on your back.
So I had to have like the oxygen. I mean, I threw up the whole time I was trying to have Blake like pushing and stuff, but throwing up. This time I just was like, I think I puked one time because I was so nauseous. I can't breathe because of that weight. But Dr. Ryder always told me, you'll be able to breathe once baby D is out. And I literally remember that moment. Like, here's A and B. Identicals are out. And here's Hazel is C. And then when Riley came out, because she was the one that was like under my left lung right there. When she came out, I remember going, I remember the release. Like, I can still feel like the release of like, that was it. That was that.
And she's been a pain in your side ever since.
I love her so much though. But yeah, and then it just, honestly, I don't even remember what happened after that, and going into like recovery, and then just being in an immense amount of pain, and all that part's kind of a blur. And all I know is I wanted to see them. That's all I wanted to do, was see them. I needed to see them. I wanted to see them. I didn't like that I had to wait. I was in an incredible amount of pain. And I remember being like woozy because I was trying to have pain. They were giving me pain stuff, but nothing was working. Nothing was working. And it was just so much pain. That fight in me, that's like, they're telling me I can't see my own babies. Now I'm getting fired up. Like, that was me. I'm getting fired up. I just remember being so frustrated. I didn't know where anybody was. They gave me some medicine. I felt like I took like kind of like a cat nap or whatnot, but I didn't want to go to sleep because I didn't want to miss anything.
Yeah.
Wow, I sound like Riley. I remember you came in where I was, and I think Ashley, because Ashley was the first person. You and Ashley were the people up there at the hospital, and that's really what I remember until they brought Riley Page in for me to see. She was the one baby that I could see. It's one of those things that like are happening, but it just doesn't feel like it's me, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I mean, you were highly drugged up as well.
Yeah,
So.
and I don't think I realized that this was my life until last year.
Yeah.
Still, I'm like, wait, we have a lot of kids.
Then, so we go into the OR and the doctors, there's 3 doctors stationed over Danielle, and then the other doctors are lined up on the side of the room. Camera is like kind of behind me a little bit.
Yeah, they had to stay out of it. She could not leave that one. I do remember that. Like, she could
put her in a
not leave
spot
that
and she
spot.
couldn't deviate.
They were like,
she
you
had
can't
to
move
stay
anywhere.
out of the way because people are going to be running. And that's what happened. I mean, it was once baby A came out. I mean, the doctor that was assigned to baby A, Ava, and his nurse ran up. They grabbed the baby, showed it to mom.
It wasn't show. It was like this.
It was like here. And then they just took off running, and because they weren't breathing. And so they had to get to the NICU and start that whole process of getting the babies breathing. But it took literally 4 minutes from baby A to baby E, from Ava to Parker. It took 4 minutes to get 5 babies out. So it was just like a super fast process, just one after another, just boom, boom, boom. I mean, it seemed like it was just a flash, like how fast it happened. And then it was just like, these groups of doctors and nurses just rotating, like, okay, next one stand up. They're just ready to catch. And, doctor pull the baby out, hand it off. They show and just take off running. And then after all the babies were born, after all the babies were out, then a nurse came and grabbed me and they're like, hey, come into the NICU. And so they escorted me into the NICU, and it was just mass chaos. Because the entire front of the NICU was just loaded at that point. The entire, like, one side of it was just baby, 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 baby. And
all ours.
Yeah, all ours. And
yeah, because I think they had like that whole wing
so
right there.
Then every station, they had a team of nurses and a doctor over that baby, and a team of doctors and nurses over that baby. I mean, it was just a ton of people in there, so it was hard to even get close. And honestly, you just wanted to stay out of their way because, here they are. I mean, these little babies that are 28 weeks and 2 days old, just fighting for their lives. These doctors and nurses doing everything they can to get them breathing. And so it was just, you wanted to get in there close and like see them and stuff like that, but just stay out of the way until everyone was stable and then ready to be moved into their little pod in the NICU, into their own isolate, to start working on getting their temperature and everything regulated. They had to put in like PICC lines and feeding tubes. And our kids were, I think that's why they're so good at doctor's visits nowadays. It's just, they're so used to, I mean, the first, months of their life being stuck multiple times a day and had tubes running out of them. So much of that is just a complete blur, just because so much was happening all at once. I mean, you think about your wedding day and how just crazy and hectic and just fast paced that is. And I mean, just imagine that on steroids. And that's what that day was like. It was scary, exciting, the most exhilarating and just like happy moment of your life, but also probably one of the most terrifying whenever you're just faced with the reality of, like, you never really would have thought, like, we knew how small the babies would be whenever they were born and stuff, and they were tiny. But I mean, to not, I guess, comprehend that whenever these babies come out, like, they can't even breathe on their own and all this stuff. And like, they need everything. Like, I couldn't have been prepared for that, to see that. And that was like one of the most difficult parts of it is, man, like how fragile these babies are right now. And that was terrifying.
Yeah.
All through that time, you have family members and stuff coming up to the hospital and getting there and waiting for the opportunity to be able to see one, and then they were busy getting you stable and sewed up and stuff. And Danielle had to go off to her own.
It's like, well,
room.
like imagine like in the moment, you're like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Where do I go?
Yeah,
What do I do?
And
What-
at
who
that
am I-
moment, like you're so torn.
Yeah.
I mean, you have 5 babies in there and they're all just so fragile and just fighting for their lives. And then my wife is
Trying to stay alive too.
probably 20, 30 yards away in another room, just went through a pretty major operation. And so,
She might get arrested for yelling at the nurses and doctors.
Yeah. So, I mean, your mind's just like completely like torn in multiple directions and you don't know like where to go. And you're just listening to people like, okay, I can come here. I can go here.
And Blake didn't come up that night.
Yeah, I don't think she did because all the photos. No, I brought her up there the next day.
Because then everybody was in the next day.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, you think like my family members and stuff, like they weren't ready. I mean, it was kind of a spur of the moment thing. Hey, we're going into labor. And so, you know, they're in Louisiana just waiting for a phone call. They had to get activated, pack their stuff, get to Houston, which is, you know, roughly 3 hours plus away. A lot of them didn't make it until later. So it was just our family that was like right here in Houston that was up there, up at the hospital.
Which at that time was only Ashley and Nick were the ones that lived here.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. That's
It
why
was only-
Ashley was the only
That's why
one here.
Ashley was first one to come up there because you were coming back from work and she ended up coming just straight up there. She got there right before you did that day before go time. Do you remember? When you got to the hospital? Well, it was 2 things. And I was, of course, starving, but I know I'm going to have like a surgery. So then I'm like, I wasn't starving, but I started to get hungry. And then I remember when you came in, you were like so pale as ever. And it was like you hadn't eaten all day. And so,
Because I just worked straight through lunch.
yeah. And so then Ashley went to go get you some like chicken and fries or something downstairs. And I don't think you even ate any of it.
Couldn't.
Yeah. It's like, eat something. It's like people always think like,
how in a moment like that, how do you just like stop and eat?
yeah.
Yeah,
And
you're just running on pure adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy.
The things we remember.
I know. Like as you're telling the story, you're like, oh yeah, remember this? Like think little things start popping up. But eventually I was able to go and see Danielle, and Riley was at a point where she was probably the most stable out of all the girls, where they could transport her isolate. You know, all these isolates were incubators or whatever. They were all mobile. They had their own power supply and everything hooked up to them. And so they got Riley to a point where she was stable and in a good spot, so they could bring Riley in and see Danielle where Danielle was in her recovery room. Because Danielle just wanted to see him.
Oh, I was so mad. So mad.
Yeah, like you can just get up and walk out there.
Yeah. That's what I thought I could.
And so that was a cool moment, like being in there, and then they wheel Riley in, like, and just kind of butt their beds up together so that Danielle could like reach over and at least touch her on the hand.
No, I didn't.
No, you couldn't touch her yet.
her.
Yeah,
You couldn't touch her. It
But
just had
you
to
could
look
just,
through
like,
the box.
Crank your head over and
Yeah.
see her. So I do have that photo of like
Mhm.
above and looking down at both of you.
Yeah.
But later that night, they were able to wheel your bed.
Mhm.
They wheeled the whole bed.
I do remember that, but I don't remember.
That was crazy. So in this level 3 NICU, you know, and the only way that, because
I mean, I
at
think
that
this
point,
was at like
Danielle was still
11
so
o'clock
drugged
at
up
night.
and still recovering and stuff, so she couldn't get up and walk. And so the only way that Danielle could go in there and see him was they would have to just wheel her bed like through each pod of the NICU and just kind of put her like on the side of
Yeah, just kind of like lean over
the
and like,
isolate and like look at them. And that was cool, just to be able to walk through and see all the babies.
And I do remember that when I did that, they were all closer in proximity.
Yeah.
But they didn't stay like that in the pods, in the rooms, because there was like different pods. It's a lot different how it's set up now today. But back then there was like just big kind of open area. And those were the pods, and you could fit anywhere from 4 to maybe like 8, depending on what size of that section was. And best case scenario is give us this pod that all 5 of them could be in there. But, you know, there are babies in there already. And so I would say most of the time that we had 3 and 2. So Ava, Olivia, and Hazel were in one pod, and then Riley and Parker were in another pod.
Yeah.
So that basically kicks off
A long road.
a long road. And that's an emotional roller coaster that you just walk through in a very fast form. And I'm like trying to like, as you're talking, I'm trying to like relive, to rethink about what was really going on, because like, I know that I've heard the stories of like you going and seeing them, but in reality that day, like, I don't remember that. I remember what I remember is I'm nauseous. I'm going to throw up laying on my back. I remember when Riley came out and I could breathe. Then I remember being in recovery, and I remember yelling and being so mad that I can't see the babies and I'm in a lot of pain. And then I do remember Riley coming in, but I honestly think I remember it because of the photo and because of the footage. And I think without that, which is beautiful that we have that I'm not sure I was there mentally and like present at that moment to really engage with like what was happening. When we went later and I got out of the recovery and we're in the room recovering, and then that night they let us go through, I do remember going through and looking at all of them, and they were all so small, and I remember that, but then I don't remember what happened next. I don't remember like going back to the room and like that night, did I sleep? Like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
When did I start pumping? Because I've turned into a cow, which was a huge blessing and answered prayer, but that's going to be going into the NICU, and the journey that we faced through this phase of our story is going to head on out to the next podcast. So
it was crazy. Like, as family members coming in, they're like, y'all have no clue this circus that's outside this hospital right now. Because there was satellite trucks like lined in the parking lot and down the street. It was like all these major news networks and everything. And they were, they had their reporters and stuff like standing in front of the hospital because the babies were there. And
it's not like they were going home.
Yeah.
But the hospital, we become very close with like the CEO and like the marketing team up there and like everything. And then the antepartum, obviously the doctors, and we had a lot of privacy and a lot of, we're not there.
Mm-hmm.
We're not there. So I'm thankful for that protection that they laid out and surrounded us with. And there was a lot of times where they were like such and such, and like I ended up staying at the NICU I ended up staying at the hospital for like 2 weeks because there was a lot of stories and press. And one, I didn't know how to leave. What do you mean I have to go home and leave?
And you just don't want to leave.
You don't want to leave. But so we did do some press within. And so, which was another reason why it was like benefiting to stay there longer.
Hospital, just because the hospital knew how.
Kind of put us in this little suite.
I mean, this is a huge deal for the hospital as well.
Yeah.
And so, you have all these news outlets and stuff that are setting up press rooms and all this kind of stuff, and, interviewing the doctors and getting all the details from the doctors and all this stuff going on like on the back end. And they're waiting for us to come out and kind of give our update and kind of tell the world like how everybody's doing.
Yeah. So I remember, I don't remember time wise.
I remember at one point being mad because I'm wanting to say somehow it got leaked that it was go time. And that's whenever all the news trucks and stuff showed up. I mean, like any of them are going to be allowed to come in there and like all this stuff. And I was like, how do they even know about this right now? I mean, obviously,
that's something to worry about that time.
I mean, whenever probably 100 people is involved in this birth, I mean, it's bound to get leaked somehow.
Yeah.
Or even family members of somebody else staying, in a wing of the hospital that like hears all the commotion.
Yeah. And then I was in the room with other people, like on the floor in the antepartum with other people who obviously are not family or whatever, but knew that she's going to have the baby. So like even them sharing with their friends and family and spouses and whatever, like stuff travels, you know,
it travels
within
fast.
Internal too. But yeah, so this was a real.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems so long ago, but it's so heart wrenching to like walk back through that phase, and with a lot of excitement and peace, but also just not knowing what is to come and what is going to be next. And I'm thankful that we didn't, I mean, you might say differently, but I'm thankful that I wasn't, as one who is a planner and a scheduler and likes control and idea of what's next and what's happening. In those moments, in these days, it was literally just day by day, like stick to the routine and let's make it through the day. So we will get into what happens next in the NICU and lots of ups and downs.
The continuation of this story, it'll pick up in the NICU. And, if we thought the birth of the babies was like,
or the pregnancy was
a dramatic experience, like nothing can quite prepare you for having kids in a NICU. And I mean, many parents out there who's had, 1 or 2 or 3 babies in a NICU before, I mean, knows that life and what it's like. And just imagine, now you have 5 in there, and for months, and just like how much of a roller coaster that was. And so we're going to pick up this story, and we find out really quickly in this story just how fragile these babies were. Yeah. And so we'll start that back in an upcoming podcast.
Another big phase of like testimony and watching God work miracles. So thanks for listening today, guys. We will see you, and you could listen to us on all the streaming platforms and watch us on YouTube, More Than Reality.
Yep. This is More Than Reality. We'll see you in the next one. All right. Love you guys.